Well, good afternoon, everyone. And for the afternoon session of the Be More Bold conference, my name is Chris McDonell with McDonell Consulting Group. We're an authorized licensee of Sandler Training. And today I'm going to take the next 30 minutes and walk you through what you see on the screen right now. 7 keys to closing more sales. So the first thought is, thank goodness he's actually doing what it said on the description. So that's a good thing. Now, as I walk through this will be tactical in nature. So as I understand it, this is going to be recorded and it'll last for a year for you to have access to. I will encourage, if there's any chat, I do have the chat feature up through the website here on my other screen. So feel free to chat at any time. And I may ask for some feedback from you along the way as we go. Now, a couple of things I want you to think about from a standpoint of closing. Some of you may have seen this guy in the past. Alec Baldwin, Glenn Garrigan, Glenn Ross. Always be closing. That's the tough guy selling system. And quite frankly, that selling system is extremely antiquated. It's annoying and often very annoying, and it doesn't work. As a matter of fact, that always be closing is focused on the salesperson and not the prospect. And the problem with that is that salespeople can be labeled with certain words, certain adjectives, certain phrases that aren't too good. Matter of fact, I don't really like being sold to. I doubt that anyone really likes being sold to. Matter of fact, sometimes salespeople can be very, very in your face and trying to convince. But I do love to buy when someone finds reasons, AKA my pain. That's what we're going to talk about today. So what we're going to talk about today is always be qualifying versus always be closing. Close means qualify stringently and close easily. So we're going to walk through 7 different areas. And the first area is going to be more on the front end and the 6 other areas on the back end. Now, so what is closing? What is closing? Well, it's an event, right? And it's also the culmination of a process, okay? So in sales, we have strategies, that's the what, and the process is more around the how. Now, I want you to think about this for a moment. A process has to start somewhere. So the number one thing we're going to talk about today is really what type of lead sources are you working with? What type of lead sources? And do you have the right prospects from the beginning? And it ends with effectively connecting with what you have to offer with the right prospect. Not everyone is going to be a fit to work with you. It's okay for them to say no. It's okay for you to say no to them early. I often ask the following question. I ask this question a lot. When would you rather have a no? Sooner or later? Now, if you want to put in the chat, if it's a good sized deal, when would you rather have a no? Sooner or later, if it's truly a no? And I would imagine you would all say sooner. Now, sooner. Yes, there it is. That makes me feel good. But the problem is sometimes we do things for the hope and the chance that we're going to close something. Like Jim Carrey in Dumb and Dumber said, so you're telling me there's a chance. And sometimes when that happens, we have that false feeling of expectations. We'd rather get that no sooner. So we're going to qualify hard. I want you to watch this really quick. If you don't know who this is Nick Saban, head coach of Alabama. Even if you like or not like Alabama, he has a very strong message here that I want you to think about. Just watch this video. You should be able to hear it well. And we'll talk about 5 different things he talks about.
Freddie Kitchen made an interesting statement last night when he when he spoke to the clinic, and I actually shared it with the players today. Now, we have about 5 choices, in our life. We can be bad at what we do. We can be average at what we do. We can be good at what we do, which probably is God's expectation for whatever ability he gave us, or we can be excellent, or we can be elite. All right, and everybody has a choice as to what they want to do and how they want to do that. But if you're going to be excellent or elite, all right, you got to do special things. You have to have special intensity, you have to have special focus, you have to have a special commitment and drive and passion, all right, to do things at a high level and a high standard all the time. All right, and it doesn't matter what God-given ability that you have, that probably can make you good. But without the rest of it, I'm not sure you ever get excellent or elite. And that's the part that we're trying to get to.
I want you to think about that. So we mentioned 5 different things. You can be bad. You can be average. You can be good. And I'm going to put this big old wall right here. You can be excellent. Or you can be elite. Now, one thing I would think about is that, it's not bad as in being good, like Michael Jackson would say, that's bad as in being bad. Matter of fact, it takes a lot of work to be bad, quite frankly. You have to have serious grudges. You have to have a lot going on to be bad at what you do. Average, so-so, at least I showed up to work today. At least I thought about prospecting, whatever it is. Good, and as Nick Saban said, that's your God-given talents. You should be good. Now, there's this huge wall to get through when it comes to being excellent and elite. A lot of people want to be excellent and elite at what they do, no matter what they do. The problem is, it takes a lot of things. Special things, passion, commitment, drive, intensity, integrity. The list goes on. So I want you to think today about this wall that exists here and why it's there. So some of the things we're going to talk about today, again, tactical reference points for you to be able to take forward to get to that excellent and elite status. Because it's not easy. It's not easy at all. Now, not to get too serious on this Friday afternoon, but something we do have to talk about. OCD. You've heard of it. You've heard of it. One contact disorder. Yep. One contact disorder. That means when you're selling and you're selling on prospects and you have clients, you are really, really comfortable with one particular contact in the organization. They love you, you love them. Problem is, one day they may leave. What have you done to cultivate relationships inside of that organization to ensure that not only do they find you when they go somewhere else, but everyone in that organization knows who you are? OCD, as we come out of the pandemic, it is time now more than ever to be excellent and elite, to build your relationships inside of your client organizations. And it starts with prospecting. OCD can be very difficult to deal with. One contact disorder. So what I want you to do is I want you to think about number one. Number 1 of 7 is expanding your nets. Expanding your nets. Now, if someone's going to go fishing like you see here, you're going to throw a net in the water and you're going to hope to catch fish. Now you can go out in the middle of Chesapeake Bay and throw that net out, or you can go to a specific spot or whatever it is. But number 1 of 7 is expanding your nets. So I want to give you 6 different areas to expand your nets. Perhaps some of these areas you hadn't thought about in this fashion. Perhaps some of these are going to be labeled in a different way, but there's 6 areas to think about from lead generation, which is number 1. If you could write these things down, that'd be great. So I want you to think about, the idea here is to have about 30 people, 30 key people listed in these nets when you're done. So if you work on this over the next couple of weeks, I mean, things are opening up. We're at a renaissance period, I think, coming. I think it's coming, coming out of COVID. Benefit net. What industries and companies get business when you get business? You have to think about this. Think about your LinkedIn network. Think about who you know. What industries and companies get business when you get business? For example, my business, say if we do assessment work, we do a lot of assessment work, DISC, skills-based competencies. We get business, they get business. We have a good relationship with them. And so just think in your world, who gets business when you get business? Write those key names down. And the second part of that is going to be building relationships with them, talking about them, becoming more strategic. The second net is a jealousy net. Jealousy net. Who does business with people you want to do business with? Now, in our world, we have people in these nets, contacts, COIs, close friends, whoever they are, in these nets. And our clients, we strive to make sure we have these nets filled at all times. But who does business people you want to do business with? And when you make, obviously, deeper relationships with them, how can they get you in the door? How can they get you in the door? That's a jealousy net. The next net is they like me. People you have given business to for whatever reason. It doesn't mean you necessarily rang their cash register per se, but they have appreciated the fact that you gave them a referral. The next one, I like them net. People you have received business from, say, in the past year. Keep tabs of that. They've given you business. They paid it forward just like you did for these other folks. The next net is the alliance net. Who can you co-market and co-sell with? We have a lot of clients right now. We're talking to you about trade shows coming up. Yes, face-to-face trade shows, and in the fall and getting into next year. Well, non-competing companies can perhaps maybe you can split the cost of a show, or you can do different things. Marketing. I have various relationships with folks and centers of influence that I work with, doing different seminars and whatnot, and it works very well. So think about who you like to co-market and co-sell with. And the last one is the client net. Who loves you? Who loves you for what you do? And this is not every client. I'm sure every client probably loves you, of course. But who are those top 5 or 6 that absolutely love you? So you think about number one is expanding your nets. If you have this ongoing list of people in different areas, that's your go-to. You're going to build relationships with them. You're going to talk to them. And these people, between all of you together, can help you get the right leads that are the right quality, qualify for what you do. A lot going on here. I want to go over that first. Those are 6 different nets. Now we're going to cover the 6 reasons why people don't buy. So the first thing is we got to have the right lead source, because if we're going to close something, we have to start with, getting the right people in the funnel. 96% of all deals don't close because of these 6 reasons. Learn to overcome them, and closing is easy. So that's what we're going to focus on. The first reason, we're just not sure we need it. I'm not sure if I want to take that leap into the water with you just yet. Number one, the key is that if there's no pain, then there's no sale. No pain, no sale. And it all starts at that first meeting. Okay, it all starts at that first meeting. If someone says, you're meeting with them, and they say, whether it's B2B or B2C, whatever it is, they say, well, why should we switch from our current vendor, or why should we work with you? If you instantaneously go into a long diatribe about all these features and benefits that are on your website, then you sound and look and feel like everyone else they're talking to. And that may not lead to much. It may not need to lead to you qualifying, may lead to you trying to convince them to buy. But instead, if you said something like this, that's a great question. I'm not surprised you asked that. As much as I want to tell you about all the reasons that other companies have chosen to work with us, my fear is that none of those reasons, they may not apply to your world. And I'm just not comfortable doing that, because I just don't know if those things really matter to you. Why don't we do this? Why don't we back up a little bit, ask each other some questions so we can really make the determination, both of us, if we're fit to work together. And at the end of our meeting today, I think we have 45 minutes for this meeting. If you don't think there's a fit, then I want you comfortable telling me that. And likewise, I hope you're okay if I don't think we're a fit, if I were to say the same. Starts off with a totally different platform, totally different playing field, because your objective is to help them discover the real problem. And oftentimes prospects don't really understand what the real problem is. No pain, no sale. That's number one. So if they're not sure that they need it, it's often because we didn't connect the dots on the fit and we didn't qualify. We just were presenting too early. PPS, premature presentation syndrome, presenting too early. The second thing, we need it, but not today. Okay, we need it, but not today. Help them discover the impact of waiting, right? Help them discover that impact. So how do we do that? Well, again, I want this to be tactical. So there's some things you can think about. If you solve this problem now, what's the benefit to your organization? In other words, you diagnose the problem, whatever the problem is. Again, pain is the gap between where they are and where they want to be, and whether or not you can help them get there. Now, in some cases, we have just a little bit of pain. And as we talk about money and budget a little bit later, if there's no pain and your service is going to cost what appears to be a high amount of dollars, and it's easy to say, we might need it, but not today, we can't afford it. Now, are you committed to taking action now? Well, people can be creatures of habits. And just because they've been in a situation for an extended period of time doesn't mean, maybe they build a callus up over it. Maybe they don't care. Maybe they don't think there's anything they can do about it. So it's easy to delay, and delay. And we can go so deep inside of this, keeping a very 40,000 foot level at this point. One of the biggest things you can think about is, what is the cost of doing nothing? When you think about that, they say, you know what, this looks good, but man, now's not a good time. Maybe in 6 months from now. And that's when you have to really step back and think to yourself and think and say, well, I want 6 months. That might make sense. 6 months from now might be the best time. And if that's the case, hopefully we're the ones that can help you with that. But if I can ask you this, if it's really truly, is it 6 months from now, would that be better? Or is it really, you're not really sure that there's enough reason to do anything about it? You're not really sure that if you made a change, would everything just be the same? And then what's worse, the cost of doing nothing or the cost of doing something and having to worry about some of the different challenges you're going to have with that? So getting the real deal on the table with them is so important. It can't be surface level. So we need it, but not today. Solve that. And obviously you can qualify more and close more. I prefer someone else. Okay. I prefer someone else, whether it's a different type of company or whatever it is, that is obviously a challenge. Now, so what I want you to think about is, why wouldn't they deal with you? Why wouldn't they deal with you? Now, in some cases, you want to be able to handle your absolute biggest fears up front. David Sandler, who started Sandler Training almost 50 years ago, has always said, if you feel it, say it, but say it nurturingly. Being very candid, very upfront. So one of the things you have to think about is, what type of company are you? Are you a large company or a small company or medium-sized company? So after a lot of years of thinking about this and thinking about where different people are, if you're a small company, right? And you know you've been getting beat up, if you will, by the large companies out there that are coming in and have more, at least in the prospect's mind, ability to serve them. You might want to say something like this up front. Would you prefer to work with a large firm that has many clients, or would you feel more comfortable with a smaller firm who could pay more attention to you? Okay, you're putting your biggest fears up front. You're asking this up front to get a gauge on where they are. Conversely, so you're a larger company, right? Are you more comfortable working with a small firm that has limited resources, but will do their best to work with you, or a large firm who has substantial resources at their fingertips and is able to respond to your needs? Again, if you're gonna, the best way to, if there's a bomb that's gonna blow up, the best way to do that is to detonate that bomb early. Detonate that bomb early so you can talk to them about it while you're there. So if they prefer someone else, let's find out early. Let's deal with it. Let's talk to them about it. And if it's not a fit, that's okay. That's okay. The next one, the moment has passed. The moment has passed. Now, I want you to think about this for a second. So you're working through the process, And sometimes deals just don't close as quickly as we like. We know that. And other times, perhaps we feel like we're chasing people, right? Let's just say the prospect had wanted a bunch of information and we give them that information. You call them at your scheduled time the next week. They're not there when you call, you leave a message. They still don't call you back. They've gone dark. They're just whatever it is. Oftentimes we give people so much information that they start to make decisions about things that they may not be qualified to make a decision on. But the problem is we can get to a point where we're doing a presentation and where we see a lot of things really go south when you're trying to close. You got a good relationship. You found you found the pain, you found the need. Then all of a sudden, let's just say it's a B2B sale. We sit behind our computer and we hit send and we send an email that has a proposal for whatever it is, 10,000, 20,000, whatever it is, 100,000, whatever this deal is. And we wait and we hope that they're going to sign the order. They're going to sign the contract. So I want you to think about this. The price of a presentation is a decision. So are you sending your presentation out, hoping that they sign it, or are you setting up a time to meet with them, either via Zoom or face-to-face, to make a presentation? You see, the price of a presentation is a decision. So if I were to ask you right now, how much you charge for a proposal, how much you charge for a presentation, I would imagine that we're all going to say $0. Okay, we're not charging money for a presentation. But what if you shifted that mindset and you shifted that mindset that the cost of a presentation is a decision? And it's okay if they know, if the prospect knows from the beginning that we're qualifying from the beginning, that both the prospect and you know that a no is okay, and it's called an upfront contract along the way, that when you make a presentation, at the end of your presentation, a couple of things can happen. For reasons big or small, they can say no, or they can say yes. It's okay to ask for that decision. So a couple of things to think about is a question just like this. You've worked through, you've found the pain, you've talked about the budget. Are you going to be in a position to make a decision at our conclusion of our meeting next Tuesday? What, if anything, might prevent you from doing so? Again, you might find out there's other people involved. You find out a bunch of different things happening, but you have the right to that information. At the same time, when you ask them to schedule a meeting, whether it's 60 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever it is, 20 minutes to go through your presentation, the last thing you want your prospect to do is get your proposal, see the price for the first time, perhaps fall off their chair because they haven't made that connection because it's never been talked about. Transparency is key. Let's schedule 60 minutes for the presentation. That'll leave you 30 minutes to discuss with your colleagues. Then you can tell me what you decided. Now, if it's been an agreement like that the whole time, it's more of a mutual understanding. Now, let's just say they're in a situation where they're not feeling comfortable saying that. Well, last week when we scheduled this meeting, you said you were willing and able to make a decision today. You said you could say yes or no, and no is perfectly acceptable. Now you're not willing to do that. Can I ask what happened? Now, asking in a nurturing way, obviously, it's amazing what they'll say. Well, there's other people involved, this, that, and the other. And you find a greater understanding of what's happening, much greater understanding of what's happening. Now, the last couple we're going to cover in the next 6 minutes or so. We don't have a budget. We don't have a budget. Now, a couple of things I want you to keep in mind. is that money is one thing. They have to have money. But for so often, we ignore the fact, are they going to have time to implement what you're working on them with? Are they going to have the resources available to be able to implement, again, depending on what you're doing? But everyone has a budget. Everyone has a budget. And we're scratching the surface here, but you have to talk about money early and often. You have to talk about money when you're qualifying. I mean, if right now, all of you, if everyone here in this session, if your main television went up today and it just totally blew up, I would be willing to bet that everyone would have some sort of a max budget they would have for a TV. And it'll probably range dramatically. Right now, someone might say $500, someone might say 5,000, could be anywhere in between, more or whatever, but you have a budget in your mind. And so do our prospects, but they're fearful of giving it to them. They're going to give it to you because they'll hold their card close to the vest because of trust issues, et cetera, getting burned, all the rest of it. So one quick thing I want to say is just a third-party story. And it might sound like this. In a similar situation that we had with a prospect, they paid around about 12 to 15,000 for something very similar over the first year to be able to blah, 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 whatever it is. Do you suppose when you look at your budget, it'll be in the same range? Getting that conversation going early to see where you are is so important. Early conversations. The last one, I want it, but they don't agree. Think about the they part. The they means other people in the organization you haven't spoken with. And a B2C sale could be a husband and wife, could be a family member, anybody. So here's just a few questions to think about. Does anyone else have to approve this before we can get started? Who in the company is interested in this project? Oftentimes there's other people involved in the decision-making for something like this. Would that be the case here? Just asking those questions to get them to think about it helps you understand. Because if you're only dealing with people that can truly say no and not say yes, that's a big part of the battle. And that's why things are very difficult to close, because you're relying on someone else to sell your product or service instead of you getting to that decision maker. And a lot of times it's head trash that we have that keeps us from asking those questions, all of us from asking those questions. Now, candid, nurturing, and upfront. When you can find out these things early, before you spend a ton of time into proposals, presentations, et cetera, and giving away a ton of intellectual collateral, company information on something that may not be a fit to begin with, you get a couple things back. You get time back. You have more time to spend with qualified prospects that you can move through a process. And that is incredibly important, incredibly important. Now, so to wrap up over the last couple of minutes, what I want you to think about, there's a discovery process going on. And that discovery process is typically like this. The prospect needs to feel that their solution will help us achieve our goal. There, as in your solution, will help us achieve our goal. They must feel that this is what we're willing to invest to get there. This is what we're willing to invest to get there. And it's almost like a seesaw. If you remember those back in the day, a seesaw, if the dollars that it costs are here and the pain is here, is very even, then it's like, well, I don't know if I want to move forward or not. I can delay. The other side of the seesaw, I'm sorry, I'm going to draw it like this, as if there's a ton of pain down here of what it's costing them not to have you in their lives, and the budget's just sitting up here. It doesn't seem that much for what they're willing to pay you. Odds figure they're going to move forward because they can see how that pain can be solved. If it's the other way and your price seems so high and there's no pain established, they'll delay and delay and delay and delay. Prospects buy for their reasons and not your reasons. And this is how we'll make the decision. If they can say these three things and you understand those three things, your odds of closing go through the roof. And that would confirm everything that you're talking about. Now, to take the last minute to close out, I just want to give a few things around mindset that we say that makes an organization a closing organization, a qualifying organization, getting past that barricade between good and excellent and elite. We are doctors of our world. You have to think to yourself, you are doctors of your world. That means you ask questions. That means you find things out, not prescribe things that don't make sense. It needs to be a fit. The next thing, you can't lose what you don't have. Like I've said it before, we've all said, I lost a sale, but you can't lose anything you never had. Qualify hard, close easily. The hard way is the easy way. So getting that no no one likes hearing a no. But if you're going for that no and you're qualifying and the prospect, it builds trust along the way, genuine trust along the way, instead of filling your pipeline with deals that may have a chance of closing. We expect great things. We expect great things. And lastly, we are an excuse-free zone. If you've ever blamed a prospect for not buying from you, raise your hand. We should all raise our hands at some point. It's easy to blame people for not buying. But the biggest place we can look is ourselves. If your foot's hurting, another quote from David Sandler that I love, your foot's hurting, you're probably standing on your own toe. And I looked down on my toe plenty of times. So with that said, I want to thank all of you. I really enjoyed the session. 30 minutes went by extremely fast. I wish everyone an excellent rest of the Be More Bold conference, an excellent summer, and please stay away from the cicadas. They're very noisy and they're very bothersome. Thank you all very, very much. Appreciate it. Have a great afternoon.